Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's weekly musings is Effortless Manifestation. I'm doing a series of weekly musings, and I'm using posts to my blog, Adventures in Density and Effort, as inspiration. Now, I wrote these a while ago, and the world has completely changed since then, but I am finding this information to be very pertinent and very evergreen. Even so, at the end, I will summarize the topic based on everything that's going on in the world today. Effortless Manifestation. 10 days ago, I was in Stockholm for the first time since 1978. My main focus was to take my mom's ashes to the house my family lived in back then. I didn't really have any other agenda. It was the last part of a 16-day trip. 4 countries, 4 languages, 3 currencies. In the back of my head, though, I thought about Laplander boots. Back in the late 70s, everyone here wore wooden clogs and leather boots with curled toes. The wooden soles wore down with use, and I remember seeing teenagers shuffle through snowy streets, their heels practically dragging on the ground. I bought myself a pair of the boots, but not the women's style, which had a smaller curled toe. I purchased men's boots, which fit me just fine because I have big feet. When I came back to Sweden, I wondered about women's boots. It wasn't a really fully formed desire. I hadn't bought anything on this trip. I'm not really a shopper. We mainly ate out and went to places where I'd lived. We were only in town 72 hours, from Tuesday afternoon to Thursday afternoon. On Wednesday, we dusted my mother's ashes in Danderud and then rode the tunnelbana back to Gamlestan for lunch and a walk back to the hotel before dinner. I remember thinking that if I actually saw boots in a store, I should seriously consider buying them. It would be my only chance, as I don't have any plans to return to Sweden. But we'd already done a considerable amount of walking around Stockholm and hadn't seen any boots of this style in any of the store windows. On the way back to the hotel, I decided to walk around an open-air market. As we were leaving, the last stall that we passed had a pair of women's Laplander boots hanging over its table of other non-shoe things. It was the only pair the vendor had, and it was in my size. He explained that back in the 1970s and 80s, they'd been all the rage, but now they were out of style in Stockholm. But in the north of Sweden, they still wear them. He said he hadn't sold any for a very long time, which is why these were on sale for half off. I got the boots, and I wore them home on the plane. The thing that struck me about this experience was how I had made these boots happen. I didn't use any of my energy techniques. It was very quiet and internal process, while a lot of other things were going on. It was a dialogue with my inner self. I wonder about women's Laplander boots. If I see them, how much would I be willing to pay? I'll spend money on food and experiences, but can be kind of miserly on material things. And if I don't see them, it's okay. As I'm recalling this, I can see that my focus was both in my head and in my solar plexus. Communication between my clear seeing and my area of will, as in willpower. And I wasn't attached to the outcome. If I didn't see them, that's okay. My manifestation had a time limit as well, since I was getting on a plane to Seattle the next day. All of this ties into a greater growth experience for me around consciousness, of having a clearer experience between the little me and the greater I am. That's for a future blog post. I invite you to play with this for yourself. What is something that you'd like to create? Have a conversation with your inner being about it. Ask open-ended questions. Be unattached to the outcomes. Try this for the next 7 days and let that be your time limit for it to manifest, and see what happens. And leave me a comment below if you do. I'd love to read your comments. So one of the things that this tells me or reminds me is actually something I was thinking about earlier today, is how in my old days I was actually very rigid about consciousness, and I was also very precise about things. And I went through a huge shift, kind of a shift into 5D, you could say, 20 years ago now. And it changed me completely, but it also changed all my techniques. And I realized the things that I had been using, the techniques that I had been using, were a little bit like dial-up, and you can't access today's cosmic internet using dial-up. And one of the things that I stumble across often is the desire to do something consciously, but not turning it over to myself as greater consciousness. And in greater consciousness, everything is possible and everything is unfolding in your favor. But when my little self wants to be in control, it can actually backfire. I can be actually using resistance, which attracts everything that I don't want. So when I can be relaxed and I can be open and I can be unattached to the outcome, then often the thing I am manifesting shows up right in front of me, shows up more quickly, manifests in ways I couldn't possibly have imagined. So if you like these videos, please share them with your family and friends and on your social media. And please click the heart button, the thumbs up button, button and please subscribe. And that way you're telling the algorithm to share this far and wide and get this out to someone who really needs to see this information. And if you'd like a free sample of one of my consciousness techniques, click on the link below to the Skybox technique. It'll give you a drone's eye perspective of what's going on in your world and in the world today. And if you'd like to learn how to do this for yourself, click on the link below to my self-study course, and you'll learn tools and techniques for navigating your life as consciousness. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com, and there you can learn about my individual sessions and my coaching program. So go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you next week in another Weekly Musings.